Let's go. Hello and welcome to the Stoked Curiosity Podcast. The
Quarantine
year...
Quality Podcast.
Oh my god, you're right. The Quarantine Quality Podcast. The year is 2021, and you and I have become victims of the vaccine war. And then you add some synthwave music.
Yes.
And that's how we open the podcast.
That's nice. Someone's been reading the Daily Mail a lot.
Oh yeah, Daily Mail known for its synthwave, new age.
No, that's not
aesthetic.
what I mean, and you know it.
I actually got the idea because all of the names creating vaccines sound like they're some sort of punk future group.
Yes.
Like Pfizer and AstraZeneca.
Pfizer,
Come on, man.
Moderna. I'm sure they're fine, but Moderna does sound like a name I would give a villainous company.
Man, AstraZeneca is the name I'd give one of the Cosmic Marvel characters. AstraZeneca sounds like one of the old cosmic beings that Galactus once did battle with. There we go.
What about Pfizer? When I think of Pfizer, I don't know why I just think of The Incredibles.
Pfizer. Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah, that's a very Incredibles name. I think there might be an Incredibles hero called Visor. There is. There's one called Visor. That's why. You're right. They all sound like superhero names. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Mind you, if I was going to own a company, I'd want it to sound cool.
Yeah, and then there's Johnson & Johnson, which just sounds like hell.
Why Johnson & Johnson?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the name. I'm talking about how this baby product maker has actually made a vaccine as well for COVID, which makes sense. But it's not the first thing you'd think about when you think about Johnson & Johnson. I, for one, think about the opium epidemic, but that's just me.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking about the recent invoking and then withdrawing of Article 16 on the Irish border. What caused this, and why did the EU jeopardise its hard-fought-for negotiation? We're going to find out why in today's pod.
But first, before we go into what happened with the Article 16, let's take a look, let's have an overview of what is going on with the EU-AstraZeneca fight, right? So let's bake a brand new, fresh batch of COVID vaccines and get into this.
Remember, you need to take the first vaccination for the second one to be more effective. Okay, Adam, explain to me, why are AstraZeneca and the EU not in the best of terms at the moment?
Yeah, not in the best of terms is one way to put it. So, you've probably seen this in the news. The row started as AstraZeneca said it would only be able to deliver 40% of what was regionally hoped for. I don't want to say agreed, because there's some debate with that. The company said that this was due to a supply issue in its Belgian plant. But the EU has this feeling, or there's a suspicion going around the EU that is not quite the case, that AstraZeneca is not actually suffering from necessarily a supply issue. Rather, they are sending supplies to other countries, mostly the UK, to meet contractual obligations in those countries instead of in the EU.
Did they actually say most of the... Oh, sorry, just checking. Did they say most of the UK?
No, but they specifically singled out the UK.
Okay, cool. Because I looked at the official document where they first announced it, and they singled out North. Okay, go on. You continue. Sorry.
No. Who did they single out?
So they didn't single out any particular country when they released the document. Talking about the new regulations that were going to be in place. They did mention Northern Ireland quite a bit in the document, but they didn't single out the. They mentioned Northern Ireland obviously because it's a unique case, right?
Yeah.
Not because I think they were singling out the UK. That's my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's how it started. They didn't specifically say. They just had this suspicion. Then, as the row continued, then they did single out the UK. Hence, this amount of headlines that you may have seen saying "hands off our vaccine" sort of thing. because it argues that some of the vaccines produced in the UK should go also to the EU. The same way some of the vaccines produced in the EU are going to the UK. That's kind of how this row started. They didn't say this until further on, further into the row. The way it kind of first started was that the EU got the suspicion that they were sending vaccines to meet contractual obligations in other places and not the EU. Right?
And I would be amiss to point out that the article does mention Northern Ireland quite a bit, and considering the contentions around Northern Ireland, there probably was some suspicion that it might have been going to the UK. Otherwise, I don't know why you would single out Northern Ireland like that.
Yeah.
I mean, for legal reasons, they have to. You can't just put restrictions on Northern Ireland like you can other places, but it was weird that they were even mentioned having to put restrictions on Northern Ireland, especially when you see the restrictions they were planning to put in place. But more on that later.
Correct. Yes, exactly. So when this row became public, it was a big thing. It was messy. We didn't quite know what was going on. It felt almost like AstraZeneca didn't quite know what was going on either, because how this came about, how before it became public, AstraZeneca had to go to the EU, have a call, and explain its reasonings. Now the EU felt that the reason that AstraZeneca gave, whatever that may have been, officially what they gave was that they had supply issues and having some glitches in the system. Then the EU didn't accept that. They said that was the explanation that they were given at the time was inadequate. So they escalated it very public, complaining that the country was breaking contractual obligations. Then what happened after back and forth between the company and the EU is that the EU has now passed a directive, I believe it is, or new powers for countries to keep vaccinations in that country if the vaccinations are going to other countries to meet contractual obligations, but they haven't met the contractual obligations that they have to the EU. Now, just to point out, there are several countries that are excluded, mainly lower income countries, but it could potentially affect countries like Canada, Japan, Australia, who have condemned the EU's move. Now, it's gotten to such a point where, actually, just to mention, even the WHO has condemned the new rule. Now,
I think it's important to mention that the reason WHO does this is because the WHO, and they've said this to the UK, have made it very clear that they want vaccination to be spread across the world.
Correct.
And the reason the reason they want to do this is because, first of all, they are concerned about they're concerned about nations with lower incomes not having the ability to, barter for the vaccine themselves in the market. And two, if you have areas which are highly vaccinated than others that are not, what the problem is then is that those areas where there's no vaccination, a new variant could arise, which our vaccine is not resistant to. And I don't think anyone wants that.
Yeah, correct. The same way that the WHO did with America when it did the same thing. Now, it is a bit unclear. It looks like the EU may have scaled back a bit, but still keeping these powers, because now they essentially try to spin it in a way that this is to monitor what is happening, just to make sure that the companies are being fair. That's what they say. So it doesn't mean that they're going to vet every single vaccine that is going out from the EU to other countries. It just means that these countries have to ask for permission, which is what the WHO is denouncing. Now, the argument, just to get into a little bit of why they're arguing, the argument is largely centered around this definition of one specific wording, best efforts, which is mentioned in the contract many times. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the commission, says that best efforts actually means that what was meant, as long as it was unclear that AstraZeneca were able to develop the vaccine. Now it has passed; they have been developed the vaccine, so therefore they have to meet these contractual obligations, because if not, it no longer becomes a best effort to meet these obligations. AstraZeneca disputes this. It is interesting how it's obviously not going to go to the courts, at least not just yet. Or that's not what experts think, because that is a lengthy process. something that the EU doesn't have is time, because the vaccine rollout scheme is not going overly well. Pfizer itself has also had to reduce the dosage it originally promised to the EU.
In fact, one of the problems one of the things that has caused much criticism from the EU, particularly from German politicians and scientists, was that originally the first vaccination to be passed into the EU was the BioNTech/Pfizer. Am I saying that right?
Pfizer.
Oh my god, why is there a P? Okay. The BioNTech and Pfizer was the first vaccine to be approved by the EU, but the EU bloc only bought 300 million vaccinations from it because they thought as newer vaccinations were presented into the market, they could just buy those ones instead. So one of the main arguments is that by not buying more of this vaccination when it first came out, they've put themselves in a bit of an issue where they don't have enough vaccination.
But that's not necessarily the case as well, because that's not what I heard. Because 300 million is what they have bought from AstraZeneca as well. I think the main issue was that Pfizer doesn't actually have the capabilities to do that just yet in Europe.
Oh, really? So what I heard one of the problems is that they should have bought, well, what German scientists and politicians were complaining about was that they should have bought more BioNTech vaccines. They only bought 300,000, and the logic behind it, the EU Commission not getting more, was because they thought that as more vaccinations opened up,
Yeah, more would come. That makes sense. That could very well be another factor, to be fair. So yes, exactly. So there's been many issues, blunders, things have not worked out for the EU that well. Now, law experts here in the UK, just to underline, these are UK law experts, they're not Belgian. This contract, I think, would be applied to Belgian law, if I remember correctly, so they would just be speculating. But what they say is that it is possible that the EU may have misinterpreted the word best efforts, or Ursula von der Leyen is misinterpreting the wording best efforts, because the contract specifically says, right, that best efforts would be violated if the company is sending vaccines to other countries to meet other contractual obligations. That's not best efforts. However, when they specifically mention the UK as European vaccines not European vaccines made in the EU going to the UK, that may not even apply in this case, because the UK bought these vaccines from AstraZeneca UK. The EU made a deal with AstraZeneca Sweden, the Sweden base, which is, technically speaking, according to these law experts, two different companies.
Well, and I think while they are two different companies, I think the argument that I have heard is that essentially even if they are different companies, the Swedish faction has... Yeah, actually, if they're two different companies, that puts a big hole in their legal argument. A massive hole in their legal argument. I suppose they would have to argue that the Swedish variant of the company was handing vaccination over to the UK variant. That's what they have to argue, right?
Yeah, that's what I imagine. Or even any other country, because AstraZeneca also has deals with plenty of other countries, right? So it depends. I know they specifically singled out the UK, which is what it looks like how they're basing most of its argument, but it's not just the UK.
But that isn't even the biggest problem.
No.
The biggest problem was when they announced the Commission implementation Commission implementation regulation, the document that contained the regulation that would be put in place. They mentioned one article. They uttered the name of an article which ought never be uttered, and that is Article 16. I had a little bit of scary music here. What's the problem with Article 16? Well, to put it incredibly simply, despite Brexit happening, Northern Ireland is still part of the EU trading bloc and allows the trade of goods from the EU to Northern Ireland without the need for checkpoints. Article 16 allows the UK or EU to unilaterally suspend aspects of its operations if either side consider the aspect to be causing economic, societal, or environmental difficulties. This mechanic is only supposed to be pulled when there is a quote-unquote serious problem, a perhaps intentionally vague statement. in the document that they released, paragraph 16 mentions exports of goods from Northern Ireland to other parts of the United Kingdom cannot be restricted by the Union law unless it is strictly required by international obligations of the Union. Therefore, movements of goods covered by this regulation between the Union and Northern Ireland should be treated as exports. While quantitative restrictions on exports are prohibited between the Union and Northern Ireland, in accordance with Article 5 of the Protocol of the Northern Ireland Agreement, this is justified as a safeguard measure pursuant to Article 16 of that protocol, in order to avert serious societal difficulties due to the lack of supply threatening to distribute the orderly implementation of the vaccination campaign in the member states. To put that incredibly simply, Article 16 was going to be used in order to inspect the vaccines going in and out of Northern Ireland. This is a massive, massive problem because this seemingly came out of nowhere. I don't think Southern Ireland or Northern Ireland or the United Kingdom as a whole was made aware that this was going to happen. And the Northern Irish and Southern Irish border has been a massive political talking point in the negotiations between the UK and the EU. The EU has heavily pushed for there to be a secure border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. It's very, very important, especially when you consider the Troubles. So the EU just coming out and releasing this without talking to anyone, you could imagine caused a bit of a stir.
A bit of a stir.
A bit. Just a tad. Just a bit of
Tad.
talks about possibly restarting the Troubles. So, just the small stuff like that.
Yes. Well, it was troubling. It's not been welcomed. It's safe to say, but I don't know if you want to add more stuff, but just to say as well, just to mention that the EU backtracked fairly quickly and apologized for its blunder.
Because my
massive
God.
mistake.
That was insane.
It was.
I've seen the people try and undersell this online, which I think is hilarious. I was like, all right, the EU said it, but they quickly went back on it. It's like, no, this was a massive contentious point during the negotiations. The Troubles were like, the scars of the Troubles are still visible. They could still pop open even. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of crazy to think that they would even... that they just went through with this without talking with Northern Ireland or the Republic of Ireland about it.
Hotheads they blamed it on, didn't they?
Who did they? Who? Sorry.
The EU said that the decision was made by hotheads.
Ah, yes.
Of course.
Von der Leyen. It was von der Leyen, Miss Ursula von der Leyen.
Ursula.
What did I say?
Ursula.
Ursula. Oh God. My apologies, Miss Ursula. Where do I have it? I have it.
Was it Ursula herself who?
No,
the
headline said Ursula, but I think the press association for the EU Commission said, "Yep, it's the Vice President's fault." The EU, when asked about the Commission's blamed
Maroš Šefčovič,
the Vice President of the European Commission. They said it was him. It was his department that's to blame for this. They just signalled him. I mean, like, straight up, they just said it was his fault. They specifically named and shamed him. Like, whew, they didn't even take a moment's notice. They still haven't really explained how that happened yet, though. That's the thing I've been looking for. I've been looking for an explanation as to why was Article 16 even on the paper, you know? I've been searching for that. I can't find anything. Were you able to?
No.
Like, you would have thought they'd mentioned why that was on. They've recently gone to the UK. They've had talks with the UK, and they've given promises of support, but man, like, of course they backtracked on that instantly. I don't even know who put that on the paper. Like, there had to have been checked, right? There have to
Yeah.
have been some sort of checks of power and checking of the document. And at one point, someone must have said maybe we shouldn't put the fact we could put Article 16 on here, right?
I do wonder what's going to happen now, because this he is in a very deep trouble. I would be surprised if he keeps his job.
I would have thought he'd lost it. I would have
Yeah.
thought he'd already lost it. I would have thought that Miss von der Leyen, would have also lost her job, because I just don't see how she couldn't have known that was happening. I mean, you would have hoped that she'd known Article 16 was being put in place if she was in charge of the EU Commission. So that seems like an important thing to know about, right?
You'd hope so, but maybe that's why it backtracked so quickly. Who knows? We need an actual in-depth report. It's a crazy situation.
But it gets even crazier, Adam, because the responses from this have been quite intriguing, especially from a Mr. Emmanuel Macron. Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
cool.
this is one I haven't heard of, and I'm very eager to listen to
Alright.
what you have to say.
Adam, this is legit. Okay, that's legit. I think I'm well within my right to say that this is an extremely harmful thing to just say, and Emmanuel Macron seems to be saying increasingly strange things at the moment, like just outright. Macron has been acting with a particular veneer of unhappiness during this whole debacle, claiming that the AstraZeneca vaccine is quasi-ineffective on patients over 65. Barely effective was the word he used. So,
Oh.
did you hear about that?
No. But-
Yes. So essentially, he criticised AstraZeneca and said that their vaccination was barely
Why?
effective against people. Why did he say that? Well, there's two running theories. One, John Bell, a medical professor from Oxford, says he believes Macron said this to bring down the demand for the vaccination so that France could get some more. Which
What?
that seems like a bad idea.
Yes.
Because
that
then
seems
when
like
you-
it wouldn't work either.
I don't think I agree with John Bell on this. I know why. I disagree with John Bell on this. I know why he said this, but let's say John Bell, let's have a funny what if scenario for a second. If he was doing this to lower demand for the vaccination, it doesn't work over 65s, the country B and C, nah, I guess I'm not buying this anymore. He then has to try and sell potentially people over 65 taking the vaccination in France after saying it's barely effective.
Yeah. But even if the countries were to fall, no, how would the countries fall for this nonsense? Like, you have data, wildly available data, right?
Well, here's the thing, right? We'll go on to
This
that
is
point next. Also,
Yeah.
I believe a lot of the deals, right, are and maybe they can cancel this, but I think they're APA, right?
APA?
So APA means. Oh no, did I get the wrong word for it? Oh no, Adam, I might. Oh yes, no, I got the right word. They are advanced purchased agreements. So if he's trying to draw down people wanting to get this, I mean, people have already bought it, right? They've in advance bought the things. So I wouldn't have really thought that would be very effective in bringing it down. One of the things I wanted to mention is that AstraZeneca at the very beginning, what they promised the EU was let me just check my document again. They promised the EU 100 million vaccinations by the end of March.
Yeah.
But in total, the EU ordered 400 million vaccinations from them. So I don't know why Macron would think that this would bring down.
No,
Because everyone's already agreed to buying it, right?
Exactly, I don't think that's right.
I think I have the real reason. The likely reason he's saying this is because German scientists from the Standing Committee of Vaccination of the Robert Koch Institution said that there was not sufficient proof that the vaccination worked on people over the age of 65. And this is very interesting because they come out and said this. In fact, they came out and said this, I think, even before the EMA, which is the European Medical Agency, they
Yeah.
came out and said it wouldn't work. It's not proven to be effective on people over 65. They said this before the EMA even approved the vaccination, which put Germany in a bit of a pickle because now the German government are saying, because they have said this, it looks like now priority to vaccinations for people over 65 are going to go to BioNTech, Pfizer, or what was the other one?
Moderna?
Let me just check quickly. Sorry.
I think the first one that was approved was Moderna. So.
Was it? I thought the BioNTech one was the first one approved.
Oh, maybe a second one then.
Yeah, you're right, Moderna. You're completely correct, Moderna. So it looks like because this commission of scientists have said this, priority to the vaccination will go. BioNTech's and Moderna will go to over 65s, and then AstraZeneca will go to younger people. Now, there is what basically this is has come to is they've said there's just not sufficient proof it works on people over 65. Oxford have sort of been a bit against this idea. The main arguments being there really isn't proof it wouldn't work on people over 65, so we don't know why you're making this suggestion. And it seems to me that Macron heard this and then just said it wasn't effective on people over 65.
That sounds like it likely anyway.
I still don't know why he would say this. Still extremely conspiratorial almost, but you know.
Yeah. Well, Macron has not said the friendliest things lately.
Well, no, he hasn't. What has he talked about, Adam?
Well, just as an anecdote, something that angered a lot of people here in the UK. For no reason at all, he said that the UK has to decide what it wants to be, an ally or was it an enemy? I can't remember the quote exactly, but there's no in between.
You can't be half pregnant.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, you can't be half pregnant was the quote.
That is... Do you see what does... It's unbelievable. What does that mean? Are you serious? It makes no sense.
That's a very odd quote. Is that a French?
It's very odd. Maybe. I don't know enough about French culture. You know what I found interesting, though?
Oh, wait, before you go, can I just say something?
Mm-hmm.
Half pregnant is not a concept, is what his response was. But I do want to say, in whether the UK being an ally or not, I think I can fairly say that if Le Pen is able to get in, which is looking increasingly likely, France won't really be a useful ally to nearly anyone. So,
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It's crazy. I don't want to say, maybe as in like a kind of ending, right? It's just to underline, it is looking really bad for the EU. So many different issues, so many things that, you know, shouldn't have happened. Like it's just gone wrong. It doesn't feel like they handled it tactfully, right? It's just not something you put in your CV. But at the same time, it is like a situation where I do feel I want to wait for a lot of things to cool off, right? I want to... Because there's a lot of speculation going on all of the headlines of like vaccine war coming and stuff like that.
the vaccine war.
Exactly. Get the clicks. You know what I mean? Maybe we should do it. But I just want to,
I was thinking of calling the video The Vaccine Iceberg Explained.
The vaccine Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, that might be a good one. Anyway, you go.
Yeah, no, it's a good title. Yeah, no, it's just that. It was also interesting to see how a lot of on Reddit specifically, there's been either bots or people who are obsessed with the topic on how basically, how do I put this? On the one hand, you have the Brexiteers online, right? Like pointing out how this is why Brexit was a good decision, how evil the EU is.
Oh,
but
yeah.
At the same time, like conveniently ignoring our own government's failings, right?
So this is one of the things I want to talk about. I think the UK, comparative to other EU nations, has dealt with this pandemic probably worse. I think you would just have to look at the numbers to see that. But if there is one thing that has saved the UK, I mean, all this talk about investing in our digital industry, our biotech industry is on point. The UK biotech industry is really strong from what I have seen. Stronger than any European competitor.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, well, German biotech used to be traditionally used to be quite important as well, quite good. And I guess it is because you have BioNTech as well, which partnered with Pfizer. I know Pfizer's getting all the glory, but BioNTech was also involved, which is German. And it's the UK and Germany are two countries you go to for healthcare, really, and data and trials and all this kind of stuff. But no, definitely the biotech industry in the UK has definitely given the government some brownie points, 100%.
And it looks like, I think the Conservatives, in one poll I've seen, have gone up 4 points.
Oh, I saw that same poll.
So it seems like the Conservatives have a winning strategy here with just the vaccination. And it looks like the EU have given them the silver bullet to further push that. So that's cool.
But let's be honest here at the same time, right? This was always going to happen. Like, people now who believe in Brexit, they're not just going to go back and say, oh, yeah, the EU was so much better. Because even with polls beforehand, the Conservatives didn't really fall that much.
No.
Right? Labour didn't go up. It seems like Brexit was still a predominant issue and people stuck to their guns. So this is just maybe a weapon that they'll use in about 5 to 10 years' time.
Well, I mean, you say that, but I'm halfway suspicious that maybe this won't even... I don't know if even there is enough time between here and the next election for this to matter too much.
That's what I was thinking as well, because we had an election was it last year? 2019. It was end of 2019, wasn't it? It was the end of 2019, so they still have 4 years until the next election.
So there is
if they don't
plenty
call
of
an early
time for
one.
a bunch of stuff. I mean, my God, Adam, the beginning of 2020, anything could happen. Anything. There's nothing.
You know what scared me, though? Do you remember how at the beginning of 2020, we had these, like, 3 very bad events? Like, we had the fires, COVID, and Trump bombing or killing Soleimani, the Iranian general. That was, like, in the first 3 months.
Oh, yeah,
now,
what everyone's talking about, World War III.
Yeah, now let's compare this to 2021, right? Like, we have the new variant. The EU almost caused the troubles again. What else is going to happen?
Anything could happen. It's anything now. We'll have to look to the future, and we'll have more to learn as we talk more on this podcast about current events. So everyone be excited for that.
Everyone do be excited for that.
There we go. And hopefully you are now all caught up to the vaccine war.
The vaccine war. The vaccine iceberg.
The vaccine iceberg, yeah.
I like that title. Let's keep that title.
There. You've caught up. The battle. EU dictator
Ursula von der Leyen. EU dictator / Disney villain that didn't quite make the cut.
Who keeps getting moved up to higher positions because of failures she's made. She's finally failed enough to make it to the leader of the EU. And now, in this dystopian world, we only have the cyberpunk warriors, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and the most dystopian of all, Johnson & Johnson, fighting in the vaccine wars.
Oh God, Johnson & Johnson is definitely with Ursula von.
Johnson & Johnson is actually the evil. Well, if we're going like a cyberpunk future, Johnson & Johnson is the mega corporation that controls everything.
Which is not inaccurate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of
the Quarantine Quality Podcast.
Yeah, Quarantine Quality Podcast. And we have a few ideas for guests we would like to appear in the show. We can't say anything yet, but I have a feeling that the next episode will be a very interesting episode to listen to. So
it's always interesting. What are you on about?
Oh, of course, but like interesting plus. Plus. So if you listen to this podcast because we tricked you with its name, because we've gamed the algorithm to get you to click on the podcast, God, this is going to have to be heavily edited. I don't know, people just. But anyway, been on that. Thank you for listening, and we hope you come back next time to see more of the Quarantine Quality Podcast. And stay safe out there in these dangerous times.